And here is where one makes a decision which can ruin it or turn it into something truly unique. Already, just the fact that the whole cane has been finished with a hand rasp will give it, I think, an individuality that one is less inclined to find on something that's just spun on a lathe and such. That hand-finished quality will be there. And originating is just a board, straight board. It's now as perfectly round as it needs to be. But what I have here is the handle. Now, this portion here was intended for that finger to go under here and the ring finger to slip into this groove. And it seems almost obnoxious. I don't care for overly contoured things, but in this case it works really well. It allows me to have a pretty stout knob on the top and also a comfortable grip. And what's happening is that, for me, there's a face forming. It's annoying, but it's potentially cool. So that decision is, do I follow the face and develop that, or do I let it go and give it a more natural look? With high-quality things, over or excessive ornateness can compromise them. I think that applies to many situations. It's nice to have really ornate stuff, but also, how good of a job can you do? Take Bobby Duke, for example. He can pretty much do anything he wants and do an extremely good job at it. I am not at that level, so I have to ask myself, is it worth putting a face in here, and what kind of face? Or do something, because I don't think I can leave it as it is. This is, there's something missing or something awkward about that. It's right on the edge of kind of an alien face. Alien as in H.R. Geiger kind of alien. But I actually enjoy, especially when the weather is reasonable, I enjoy rasp work. It's gradual, and the results aren't instant, but I can see the progress, so it's rewarding. The wood responds to what I'm doing somewhat quickly. It's not noisy. There's something about it that I find appealing. I can spend hours rasping, even rasping unnecessarily, which I think I'm doing right now. But that's what I'll do. I'll sit around when I don't have a lot else to do, and I'll just keep going over it, and it just keeps getting more and more and more perfect. And all those lumps and irregularities slowly start smoothing out and disappearing. Well, we'll see how this comes along and what I end up doing with this potential face. At this point, I'm not sanding to finish it, but because I am still indecisive about a possible face, I'm cleaning it up just a bit to give me a better perspective. And it does make a difference. When I look at it in the condition it's in now, it's hard to really see what's going on or how it's going to look if I leave it just as it is. But a quick once or twice over with a crusty old piece of 80 grit will clean it up and give me a better idea. with YouTube, but some of the videos I do, they just get swept into the void. And I've wondered at times if it was some kind of equivalent to AI or AI that sees product labels and just assumes that you're advertising or something. And of course, YouTube is all about advertising and all sorts of grotesque, disgusting nonsense and fake videos. But for the little guy or gal, they don't tolerate it much. So if you want to be a pig on YouTube, you have to be a super pig. They don't want plebeian swine. They want super swine. Anyway, this is how the white oak shillelagh came out. I am not entirely pleased. I'm very pleased in some ways. The knurling is quite different from the Ipe cane. If I could wave a magic wand and have either or, I would definitely take what I did on the Ipe, but that takes a long time, and especially with Ipe, as a hardwood, takes a very long time to sand. With this, I used 2 file widths for each segment, and that saves time, and it also gives me a lot more space to rasp the ovals with, or the segments with, and it works really well. This is actually thicker than this beastly Ipe thing. Again, it's white oak, so I had to make it substantial. If this was Kumaro, it could be half the size and still stronger. But this is a very stout twig, and I don't think it's going to break. I have a gallon jug that I'm going to christen it on. Now, if you're looking at this head thinking, what the hell is that? I did not opt to go for a face. I don't really want a face in most of my stuff. If I could have wangled a horse or some kind of animal, that's fine. I don't want anything sinister looking. I'm sinister looking enough myself. I don't want that in my art. And this has an almost, if you've looked at the old European architecture with the gargoyles and such, some of them are kind of goofy looking, and this almost has that characteristic. If you added wings to it and some detail, you might be able to pull it off. That kind of irritates me. I may come in here about a fingertips thickness up and gouge that in to resemble one more of these sections. Now, if you're looking at this thinking, what the hell are those sections if not for a face? It happened kind of naturally where I had one developing, and I kept, as I was filing down the head, I kept grabbing it, checking it for comfort. If you get carried away with aesthetics, you can end up with a really beautiful object that doesn't serve its purpose. And my canes must serve a purpose. So I kept checking that, and I found my finger fit in there fairly well, and I thought, the other two felt kind of weird. The index finger rides the shaft. The howdy finger goes into the neck. The ring finger goes into this first beak hole, and the pinky can, optionally, sit in this groove here. I had thought about reducing the forehead here, but the reason I don't do that with either one of these, this is bordering comical looking. It's excessive. But the reason it's so damned fat is I'm trying to avoid what is a risk with single piece canes. The grain is going this way, and the farther out this goes, that downward pressure peels the grain apart, and that's where any wood is going to be its weakest, but especially some of these hardwoods. They're extremely strong perpendicular, they're extremely strong with compression as long as you have material underneath what you're compressing. When you start extending outward parallel to the grain, they can really fall apart. So that's why it's so ridiculously large. Also, I have this Ipe cane designed to transfer the weight closer to the center of the shaft, rather than, if it was just a right 90-degree angle, all that weight would be pushing directly down on this lateral appendage. So that is the reason why these look a bit funny. This nub, I'm very pleased with this nub. It's kind of excessive, but man, it's effective. If you were to job that into something, you wouldn't have to send them a notice. They'd get the message fast. Being a significant hardwood, I think that could take a beating. Whatever you were beating, hopefully, couldn't take too much of it. But with this knurling here, it doesn't look as nice, I think, as that does on the Ipe, but it's still very effective, and I ended it. It's a little bit hard to see, but I ended it right there, which is about 1/3. And I find that's the sweet spot for wielding the stick. And a general test for me is if I can make the wind howl swinging the cane, it's moving fast enough. And I can assure you, this would not be well received. I also think it's somewhat low profile compared to this. If you walk into a hospital or an office, people might look at this. But something I mentioned, and I write on my website, I write stuff that doesn't end up on YouTube. But the Cane Masters guy got me thinking with one of his videos, and I don't think he actually cited the law, but he generically mentioned a law in the United States that protects individuals from being interrogated or otherwise harassed if they have a cane that has certain characteristics, which is more the absence of certain characteristics. No metal parts, no weird stuff, but a standard hooked cane. If you have one of those, you have a lot of protection. Now, these days, people are taking a lot of chances with harassing people, and if you don't have an attorney, you might not be able to make much out of it. But at least there's a precedent set that discourages harassing people with canes. And if I have it correct, it's the American Disabilities Act that defines that. I have not looked into it. I've not given scholarly efforts to study the law behind that. I've only taken a cursory glance, and it does seem adequate. The American Disabilities Act states a few things that give me confidence that I wasn't wasting my time. I think maybe I went a bit too far with this because I thought, well, it has to be a hook and other autistic bullshit. I get funny ideas sometimes and go with them. But regardless of facts and all that other annoying stuff, these are two substantial canes. It'll get you out of a pickle, and I've got a couple of things here to test. This is a can of chicken broth that I purloined from someone. Hopefully they don't find out. I think canned chicken broth is absurd. I don't have my glasses on, but I've looked at this before. This is chicken broth, and it has 0 milligrams of cholesterol. How the hell you can make chicken broth with 0 milligrams of cholesterol? Don't bother explaining it to me. This ain't chicken broth. It says it is, but it ain't. So that's going to get stabbed with this hook. Somehow. It's going to be kind of hard to do. This jug is going to be smashed by my shillelagh. So let's get to that, and that'll be the end. Well, if you remember last time, it wasn't too impressive, but that was a hell of a stout jug. This is more of a standard jug, and I fear it's going to make a mess. But it's been raining all day anyway. And I don't think I'm going to hit it as hard as I can. I'm not feeling well. I'm usually not feeling well, but I'm really feeling quite uninspired right now and a bit stiff. So I'm just going to give it a standard thump, the way I might if I needed to. Oh. Well, that tore right through it. And I said, ow, when I got wet. That's a bad habit. I guess I got a bit of cat in me. Let's go ahead and see how easily this can penetrate a can. That didn't work. It put a reasonable dent in it, but it's not leaking yet. Now, you can see here, there's no sign at all of even a scuff on this point. So I don't know if I got the point in there or not. Hey. Well, that didn't work either. All right. So we'll try it one more. Now we have a flattened surface. Sometimes it helps to relax. Well, I'm not going swimming, and that can went down into the creek. I'll fish it out at some point, but suffice it to say, you need some speed, and trying to pull a cane with a lot of speed to puncture a steel can, that might be more difficult than I anticipated. But it definitely dents the hell out of the can, and I think it doesn't require too much imagination to figure out what that would do. And again, there's no scuff, there's no nick on the tip of this. It's still just as it was before. So that exhibits endurance. If you consider a steel can as a bit harder than the average neck or eyeball, wherever you want to grab them. So that's a good sign. No chips or anything. But I'll see if I can sneak in a clip of something else. What I have here is the old cracked Kumaru cane. Anyone who's watched these videos has seen this before. It's a hell of a tough stick, a hell of a tough wood, and well, this can ain't dead yet. The leak is at the top, so I'm going to give it a good spank and probably regret it, at least judging by what happened with that gallon jug. But it's there, and so is this. That was a good spanking. You just got to think about that. You could definitely forego your dental appointment with that one. All right. Shillelagh, kind of.